Hello all. So this is going to be a quick overview of the short essay number 3, selecting our variables. So this one's sort of a two-part one, and then we're going to be looking up our variables to use, which we've been talking about all semester, and then we're going to be plugging them in to a method section where we talk about how we use those variables. So we specifically talk about what that might look like in general terms first, and then more specifically later on. So the basic idea here is you're going to be building off your first two papers. So in this paper, you're going to be wanting to connect the research topic you're interested in, you identified in the first essay, and then you're going to connect it with the second essay, the sort of background you found on your topic. And to do that then, that'll be your way of capturing how you would look at that topic in variable form. So let's see what this looks like. So there's two parts to this. Would be one, finding your variables, and then going in and talking about how you're going to use those. So let's actually go on this website. There's a link here. If you click here, social survey link. And this whole thing right here, this is, we briefly mentioned this before, but essentially this has been a database of questions that people have been asked since the 1970s. And essentially people have asked things like, are you Republican or Democrat? What religion are you? What is your income? All these different sorts of things that are ways that people grapple with their world around us. And it helps because they've done this since 1970s. So we have this idea over the past decades of how people's opinions have changed. So essentially then, searching variables, so you're gonna go ahead and just search for variables. So I'm gonna go through a few samples here. So for instance, say you were interested in something like homelessness is the theme we've been talking about. So something like you might actually search for homelessness and see if that comes up. I don't think there's one for that. So you might actually just try homeless. So this essentially works like a Google search form, but what it does is it basically goes through and looks through all these variables that have been collected over the past 50, 60 years in order for us to see what sorts of questions they have. So we'll go through a few examples here. If it could pop up on time. Still waiting for it. So there's the keyword search form here where you could type in keywords. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to actually go over to this other section here and search for specific subjects. There we go. So here we go. So say you're researching homelessness, you type that in there to kind of see what's going on. So you actually see down here, there's a one called Hardship 7, Homeless. And what I like to do then is to go over to Expanded View, and this gives you the question. So imagine then, essentially what the survey was, is someone either called or met someone in person and asked a question like this. So for this one down here, for instance, so someone literally asked this question to one of the people in the survey. Now I'm going to ask you about various events and conditions that happen to people. I'm interested in those that happened to you during the last 12 months. I asked you about the specific events. Please think carefully so I could think accurately. Now I'm going to ask about the specific hardships. Did you have any of the following? And one of the things I asked then was, how to temporarily live with others or in a shelter or on the street. So this is supposed to mark homelessness. So then if you're interested in homelessness, this might be a variable you want to find. So say, for instance, then you're interested in homelessness, you would find this variable. So for your topic, you might copy this down. And then you would go through, maybe I'll open up a blank Word document. The idea being, as you open this up, you would want to save this somewhere, and you write this down. So as you're recording this, you write this one down, Hardship 7, that might be something you're interested in. So now you're saying, okay, so what am I interested about homelessness? Maybe my hypothesis is, I want to say someone who's homeless, maybe it's more likely that someone who is male is more likely to be homeless, or maybe female. Let's just say it's more likely that somebody is female, faces homelessness because of inequality in our society. So I would then go search for a term like sex, for respondent sex, and we would find something like here, One of these four core questions then is survey question, what is your sex, male or female? So then you could actually compare this variable. So then your hypothesis would be, I think that a respondent's sex, in this case female, is going to be more likely to cause someone to be homeless. So you might actually type that in to your browser, and as you're talking about that, you go through and start filling out the rest of what the paper is looking for here. So let's go up here. Another example might be, let's go through another one. So let's say, for instance, you were interested in things like poverty. So I think there's actually one, if you search for someone's class, you might go in here and say, for instance here, do expanded view again. So say, for instance, then you're interested in someone's class, and I feel that someone who is a non-white person is going to be more likely to be part of a lower class in the United States because of things like racism. So I go ahead and search for the word class, and I found this one. If you were asked one of the four names of your social class, what would you say you belong to? Lower class, working class, middle class, or upper class? So that'd be a variable you could use. Or secondarily, then because of your research question, you might want to say race. So you'd find something like a race of respondent right here. Say something like, what race do you consider yourself? And basically then the survey person will write down what race they're considering. So if you were actually writing this out, you would get to compare those two. And let's, so that would be one way to do it, searching by keywords. There's also modules or subjects. So if you go down through here, there's a lot of different subjects here because this has been done since the 1970s. So you might go through things and find something like, you see you're interested in crime, for instance. If you were doing that, you do that one, you go ahead and press, hit the one for crime, and then it appears up here, and then you can press search. So this one, because I still have race here, I was going to search for race connected with crime. So in that case, it didn't show. So go ahead and get rid of that and press search. So for instance here, you see crime, and there's all sorts of things about crime, anything that's regarding crime. So if you're generally interested in crime, you could go down here, let's see. So for this one's looking at someone's interest in, is one of the main interests in society to reduce crime. So we're faced with many problems in this country, none of which can be solved easily or inexpensively. I'm gonna name some of these problems. And you're gonna tell me whether you think we're spending too much money, too little money, about the right amount of money. And one of these is reducing crime. So basically you're gonna go find these and try to find some variables that work with your subject. And I'll go back and let's actually go back to this page and we'll show you an example of what that looks like. So here's a sample, pull this one up, of a student who did, the same student who did this essay on marriage. So here they went through and they, exactly what we're looking at here, the study analysis freely available data set provided by the GSS, which is the same one you'll be using, so you can include that. This data is composed of survey responses that were collected in the year 2018. And the reason they were able to say that is, for instance, if you go back to this page, you could actually see what years this was collected. You don't necessarily need to say. So some of these were collected at a bunch of years. All the years are always up here. For instance, this one down here was only collected in 1984, so something like that. Participants were selected randomly, all English-speaking Americans between the age of 18 and older, and were non-institutionalized. So she was interested in marriage, and her independent variables of analysis were income and education. Treated these variables at the ordinal level of measurement. Our survey did not allow for income to be measured at the interval level ratio. Our dependent variable was happiness in marriage. We treated this variable as the ordinal level. The first hypothesis of the study, it was higher levels of income. So here's one variable. Increase the probability of a person being happier in marriage. So I'll show you what these look. So there's two variables they identified here, higher levels of income. So you could actually see that, and also happiness in marriage. So actually, if you go back to our survey question, you actually search marriage. Go ahead and erase crime here. Let's just search for that one. Search. So here it is right here, this variable right here. So they use this one, happiness in marriage, because they were interested in whether people of different income levels are happier or less happy in marriage. So they did this one, happiness in marriage. That was one of the ones they used, happy marriage. You see in their sample, that's what they identified here. One of our dependent variables, it was happiness in marriage. We treat this variable on the ordinal level. And the other one was talking about, see, income, happiness in marriage. We treat this variable ordinal level. Higher levels of income. So this one could also be, I would argue, the same thing as using the class one. So she used this variable, and she might also have used the class one that we searched for before. So for instance, searching for class. So here you can see that one, expanded view, subjective class identification. So the two she talked about. To test these hypotheses, we perform a chi-square analysis through SPSS, and furthermore, we provide gamma as effective the size index. So as far as we're concerned, when you talk about this last part, you might mention you're using a chi-square because chi-squares are used for nominal levels of measurement. So whatever one we've used so far in this semester, you can mention that. Because we're just proposing this, we're not actually going to run through this. So there's also a full essay example to see all this flowing together. So this is the student's full essay. So again, you can look through this one, but essentially this research interest one was the first essay we did. So this is like essay 1. So this student was talking about increased divorce rates. I'll talk about what this looks like. Income is the only predictor of marital happiness. So in their research, they found this idea of divorce being linked with income. And so this second part is going to be sort of the literature review. So it's a little bit more of the literature review and the development of their hypothesis. So this is going to be sort of what we're getting at in this one. So you're going to want to be talking about your particular research interest. For instance, when this student was talking about income and happiness in marriage, talk about how one leads to the other. And finally, here's the method section we already saw. So this is how they connected it to the particular topics they're looking at. And finally, the conclusion, we'll look at this one. This will be for the final essay. So you should mainly be interested in these first 3. And this is a student example. You could look slightly different than this, but this is mainly what we're looking for. So back to this one again. So basically here, the grading, we're going to be grading on a minimum of 300 words. The identification of 2 or more variables. So for instance, this idea of literally saying, like, I'm going to use, in the sample up here, I'm going to use variable 1 and variable 2. So for example, I will be studying research topic, homelessness, or whatever topic you're interested in. I believe they're related in this way. For instance, I think that the higher level of poverty, the more likely you are to be homeless. To investigate this, I will be investigating variable 1, let's say class, like the ones we identified, and variable level 2, male or sex for male or female. I expect there will be a strong relationship between the 2 variables, which will prove my hypothesis. To check my work, I will run a chi-square test. That could be something of what it'll look like. So basically, part of the grade will be identifying 2 variables that you find in this search project. So take your time with this. This one takes a little bit of effort in searching. That'll be one of them. And then finally, just how these, basically then, your ability to connect with why you chose these variables and how they connect with your research topic. So essentially, I'm open for you pretty much coming up with whatever ones you want to in this, as long as you can make the argument for why it connects with your topic and how it explains your topic and the things you found in your the articles that you read for your essay number 2. And again, the actual points down here, criteria are broken down. The bulk of the points being down this last part, being able to clearly identify how your research topic matches the variables.